upstairs for the next one. The opportunity to come together and see old friends and co-workers in such a beautiful, relaxed setting on a weekend where we're not all going 3, 2, 1, proved irresistible to us. And the actress in me couldn't resist this once-in-a-lifetime opportunity to speak a few words about our connection to NBC Sports and to all of you. And since I never did win an Emmy, you can consider this my Emmy speech. For those of you who don't know me, I am Julia Clegg Sansevere, and I was an NBC page, Net A&P secretary, Chiron operator, and yes, aspiring actress back in the day. I'm originally from Houston, Texas, and was at NBC for 14 years, from 1978 to 92. And I'm married to Richard, otherwise known as Dick Sansevere, a Brooklyn boy from Bay Ridge, former NBC maintenance, cameraman, and technical director. He was at NBC for 34 years. He beats you, Larry. From 1963 until he retired in 97. And he was one of the original field guys who worked on Super Bowl III at the Orange Bowl in Miami. Remember that? Jets versus the Colts? A landmark event for NBC Sports, right, Larry? And really helped put them on the map. And he went on to work on many more Super Bowls and other major sports events in exciting, sometimes exotic locations as a technical director, and he's still known fondly by his former co-workers as the Manly TD. And of course, I think the name fits. My first trip for NBC Sports? To Buffalo, New York. In the dead of winter, with 6-foot drifts of snow on the side of the roads. Neither exciting nor exotic. But I managed to fit in a Devo concert while I was there. Remember them? So it wasn't all bad. But my actual entree to NBC was as a page. In my very first year in New York City, a city I had dreamed of living in and working in ever since going there with my parents as a wide-eyed 10-year-old. And the lights of Broadway just hit me like a ton of bricks, and I was hooked. And I knew that I would get back there someday, because if I could make it there, I could make it anywhere, like Frank Sinatra sings. And I did make it there, in front of and behind the camera, working at NBC as my day job, and as an actress in soaps, commercials, theater, TV, and film, all during my days off and after leaving NBC. And being a page entailed some, let's just say, quirky assignments that, of course, now make for great memories and a cute story here and there. One, which practically bored me to death, was a 2-week assignment, which entailed sitting in a room for several hours at a time, watching TV to determine if the commercials were louder than the programs. This was a so-called scientific project dreamed up by broadcast standards. Remember them? Remember we had them? I mean, come on, who were they kidding? Of course the commercials are louder than the programs. They always were and they still are. And everybody knows that. But I couldn't believe they were paying me, a recent University of Texas graduate, to tell them the obvious, and neither could my parents. And we all laughed about it because it was a dream assignment for a college graduate, although somewhat boring at times. But I was getting paid to watch TV. And I wonder now if that experience contributed to my affinity for commercials. I'm always saying, shh, let me look at this one. And for being a loud talker, for going just a little bit deaf in that room back then. It's not just the earphones. Another time, a little bit more exciting and a little bit more near-death experience was as a key page on the 9th floor at Saturday Night Live, being scared to death when a bunch of Hell's Angels showed up for a live broadcast one night without tickets and expected to be seated, no questions asked, because they were friends and special guests of Dan Aykroyd's. And it was my job to make it happen. And I like to think that my thick Texas drawl at the time, as a recent UT grad, helped save me from sure death by charming the tattooed and very intimidating looking leader of the group, who I came to find out was known as Killer. Especially when I had to ask him and his party, Mr. Killer, sir? If you and your friends don't mind, would you just please move over a couple of seats to make room for these other nice folks with tickets? And after giving me a very dirty look, Mr. Killer and his motorcycle mama and their friends agreed to move, and everyone settled into their seats. And I lived to work another day at the factory, as we used to lovingly call it. And Dick and I made the ultimate connection of matrimony, like many other happily married couples, while working together at NBC, like Larry and Kathy Worcester, Fran and Steve Semino, John and Stacy Gilmartin. Stacy's a good friend of mine from our days in doing Chiron, to name just a few. But our first connection, Dick's and mine, happened when I answered the phone at 4 a.m. one morning. We were not married, didn't know him. To hear a very deep and sexy voice, I thought, saying, "Hello, Julia. Good morning. Would you like to come to work today? We're all waiting for you." Oh my God, I'd overslept. It was a 4 a.m. call, and it was the early Today show, and Dick was my TV. And he somehow got someone to cover for me until I could get there, so I wouldn't get in trouble, and nobody was the wiser until now, that is. But I guess that was the moment that sparked our connection, and then we cemented it even further by working together on NFL Live with Bob Costas and Ahmad Rashad, leading to our eventual walk down the aisle. Lesson there, be careful who you call in the middle of the night to come to work. They just might marry you. So Dick and I have a lot of memories and stories. We've been chatting it up at the table that connect us to NBC Sports, as you do. And I'm sure there's not nearly enough time in the NBC Universal, to tell them. We both worked on just about every sport that NBC covered with some of the best directors, producers, and crews in the business, and you're all here in the room tonight. I don't have to tell you those were some fun times, exciting and special in every way. Working in live television is a very adrenaline-charging and connecting experience with your fellow workers. Kind of like being in the foxhole, taking incoming fire. Not that we were facing any actual grave danger, like our brave women and men who actually do put their lives on the line defending our country. Bless them all. But sometimes, the shouting and excitement in that control room or truck would make you think you were. And as Brian Williams said on the Today Show just a few days ago, on September 9th, he was co-hosting, "We're not breaking rocks in the hot sun here, folks. We're just making TV." Lately, we've reconnected and renewed friendships through Facebook with many former friends and coworkers, including Neil Getz, you might remember him, his editor, John Gonzalez, who's in the room tonight, and Andy Rosenberg and their wives. And they all live in Florida now, where we are. They're near us, and we couldn't be more thrilled to have these new old friends to hang out with. And if you don't know, there's an NBC East page group, NBC East group page on Facebook that Charlie Chin started over a year ago. And that is so much fun. There are a lot of photos and stories showing up there, so it's obvious we all have a really special place in our heart for the good old days at NBC and each other. And Maureen Mulvaney-Stan, unbelievable tonight. She just reminded me earlier tonight that I helped her get to the hospital when she was having a gallbladder attack in the middle of the night when we were in Detroit together, way back in 1980 for the Democratic Convention. That's quite a connection and a memory, and evidence of how we cared for each other and still do. And I'm glad I was there for her. It has been so great and a tonic to the soul to reconnect with everyone here this weekend, to see familiar faces and renew our friendships. Marilyn, Kathy, Maureen, Carla, Jimmy, Larry, Neil, Christine, John, Jimmy, everyone, you're all in our hearts. And I've summed up these thoughts in a poem I wrote called Connections, Legends, and Dreams. From the days of Nipper, the RCA Victor dog, to the digital age of Facebook and Twitter and the electronic blog, we are all a part of the dream that was and always will be, that of the NBC Sports TV family. We were the best and continue to be, those who rose to the occasion and won Emmy. I was a page, secretary, car operator, and actress at NBC. That was my connection and identity. I loved my job and the people I worked with so much that I even married my manly TD. Sometimes known as lower third, font, infinite, and CG, they've never stopped inventing ways to make graphics fly across the TV. I hear there's a new graphics device now called Duet. Thank goodness I'm a realtor in Florida now and I don't have to master that. Our connection to one another spans generations of time, from the first peacock snake to its current feathery design. Bonds of trust, respect, and friendship were kindled in the heat of live sports TV. No, not the kind of Kindle you read a book with currently, but the kind of skill, care, expertise, and creativity of everyone to put on a flawless show that made us all proud as a peacock, don't you know? That created connections and legends who have gone before us. Names of glory like Chet Simmons, Harry Coyle, Teddy Nathanson, and many others still among us. I love being able to say that for even just a little while, I was a part of that wonderful family and team, that I have a connection, as all of you do, to the incredible people who are all a part of that NBC Sports TV family and dream. And in closing, I'd like to say that I think sometimes it was all just a dream, working there. But if it was just a dream, then I guess dreams really do come true. Because I had a dream job and a dream business, show business, in a dream city where I always wanted to live when I grew up, made wonderful friendships that have withstood the test of time, and married a dreamboat of a husband who I met while we were both working at NBC. And I was honored to be a part of that NBC family along the way. So if it was a dream, please don't wake me, because I'm still enjoying the residual effects of my connection to that time and place and family, and that makes me feel all warm and fuzzy all over. And I rather like that feeling, don't you?
Thank you, Julia. We all know that in television and in sports, not everybody's a winner. We want to talk about someone who's a loser preparing for the 1980 Olympics. And I hope Thompson has a lot to talk about.